Hello and welcome to Tricks of the S-Trade channel. Today is the 23rd of March. Sorry, did I say March? 23rd of August, I'm sorry to say. 23rd of August 2017, and it's like 2 days after the full eclipse that we had. I hope you guys made some interesting videos and did watch it so you could understand your world, so that when the fake Vatican NASA tries to lie to you and tell you that it's the moon getting in between the earth and the sun, you should call it a fluke and just tell it what it is, because as you could see right there, that wasn't no moon, because we see the sun shine and we also see the moon in the sky at times. So that doesn't explain that phenomenon. That is one of the wandering stars that moved across the world, all right, across the United States to say. So if it's your first time on our channel, I'd like to welcome you. But before you go any further, because today's feature, we're featuring David Beckham. We're going to find out if David Beckham is actually the sex he claims to be. And also, this is also a continuing series of a series that I just started, which is called No Need for Pastors. And this is actually the part 2. So for you to get up to speed, you need to watch the part 1, No Need for Pastors. There's a playlist on the channel. You can go look for it. Now, before you get any further on this video, I would advise that you pause this video right here if it's your first time on the channel. I want you to go look for a video that's called the primer video. It's a very important, it's pertinent that you watch the primer video first if it's your first time on this channel, because if you do not do so, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be saying is not going to make any sense to you. You're going to come back with too many questions, and we are trying to answer as much questions as possible, but we don't want to keep repeating ourselves over and over again. So you need to pause the video right here and go look for the primer video, and let me show you how to do that. Right, so here is the primer video. It's going to be the oldest video on this channel. All right, so you need to watch the primer video because it's going to answer a lot of questions to like why, the reasons, the people behind it, and all other stuff. Right, so when you click on the primer video, all right, when you watch the primer video, you also have to study a document. It's very important that you study the document. Now, the document is attached to every video on this channel. If you pick up a video, you find a document. All you need to do is go look for the description section of the video, like I'm hovering my mouse over right here. When you click on this link in the description section, it's going to lead you to this document. Sorry to say, this document is going to be called Male versus Female Visual Differences. All right. This document will help you to know the visual differences between male and female. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. So the document is about 44 pages long, but I do guarantee you it will take you 30 minutes or less to go through. It just has a lot of pictures, a lot of it. So you need to do that before you can continue watching this video. So with that said, I'd like to put some warnings in effect before you guys continue. First of all, I'm going to be talking about the Bible today. I'm going to be using the Bible. So if you hate the Bible because there are people who have been brainwashed into believing that the Bible is no book that you should consider when you're doing anything. So if you're one of those people advocates against the Bible, I advise that you pause the video right here and quit. Because I don't want you continue watching the video and then you get upset and you leave me a stupid comment, all right? Because there are a lot of delusional people out there. So just pause the video and save yourself the embarrassment or the ridicule of having to go through the Bible, which you despise, okay? Now, the next warning I'm going to put up is that it might be a long video. People who complain about that I talk too much and everything else. They go sit in a movie theater, they pay money, they spend money in a movie theater, and they sit through a ridiculous movie and hear a lot of people talk all sorts of nonsense, comedy or whatever the case might be, and they don't tell the guy, please hurry up and get to the meat of the bones of the matter. We don't want to hurry up and just hit the nail on the head. And then when I do that, they say, oh, I talk too much, I should just hit the nail on the head, because they're delusional folks. So if you can't sit through a long video, just pause this video right here and just quit. Now, the next warning I have to put in place is that there is no slandering or name calling on the channel. If you have to label someone a transgender, you have to provide facts based on the female skeletal structure, which is designed to give birth. A woman is designed to give birth, and because of that, she has an arch in her back, a very flexible spine. Her hips are below her crotch. She has a wide pubic arch, and her pelvis is tilted forward. So if your comments have to say that someone is a transgender without supplying those facts based in links of pictures, right, or videos, and you start off by saying something like the person is a transgender, or you start off by saying the person has a large skull, the ring finger or index finger is longer than the other, has long arms, long torso, has an Adonis belt, your comments are going to be deleted, or you might be blocked. We do not encourage any slandering in any shape or form. All right. So you have to supply those facts that I have mentioned when you're labeling someone a transgender. If you're not sure of the person, all you need to do is send me an email. Don't put it up in the comment section. Otherwise, you're going to get blocked. So that's the warning. Now, as usual, if it's not your first time and you've watched any of the videos, you know that for sure that we are not against transgenders. All right. We have no authority to judge anybody. If you're an adult and you made the decision to say you want to be a homosexual, you want to be a transgender, that's really up to you. It's none of our business. We don't come in your house and we're going to judge you for anything, because God gave each and every one of us the right to mess up their life in any way, shape, or form, and that's totally your business. All right. So we are just exposing people caught in a lie. People who are the products, as we say, of the Vatican. And like I've said before, and I usually say, and I'm still saying, that the Vatican is the people. There are the people behind the organized chaos in our world, the organized transgendering of kids, and taking young children and forcing them to live in a sex and gender that's different from the sex and gender they were born with when they are not adults. This are the people behind everything that's going on in your world. The Vatican. You point your hands at them, all right? Don't point your hand at the Jews, because the Jews are a farce. They're a cover-up for the Vatican, okay? So also the next one I have to put up in place is that which other warning do I have to put up in place? Well, this is not really a warning. It's more like an advice. We encourage people to try to back up your statements. All right. Don't think about what you say before you say it, and try to back up your statements, because this is an educational channel. Sorry to say. So, with that said, now the subject of discussion that we're featuring today is David Beckham. So let me pull up a picture of David Beckham. So here is David Beckham. Now you can pause the video at this point and take a good look at this picture and tell me what you see that is different, because right here we have Kevin Hart. All right. Now, as usual, I've always said that once you see anybody on TV, that the person is a stooge of the Vatican. Kevin Hart here is a stooge because he knows for a fact that this person that he's looking at is a woman. But Kevin Hart has never told you that truth. But that's not the case that what we're talking about looking at this picture right here. I just want you to take a good look at this picture, because we've started the transvestigation already. And tell me what you see that's weird. All right, if you can figure that out. All right, because the way we make videos has changed, so we just jump dive and people are not gonna know when the transvestigation starts or where it ends. They have to sit through the video, because people are fast forwarding to the transgender part and then they miss out on everything else I say. So take a good look at this picture and tell me what you see that's wrong, and because the transvestigation has just started. So I'm showing you that one of the things I always like mentioning in the videos is that when we're doing a transvestigation, you show you the visual differences between male and female, the pertinent information that you need to know, because you have to understand that a woman is designed to give birth. All right. So long index fingers, jaw lines, Adonis belts, long arms, short torsos, long legs, and all that ridiculous brow ridge has nothing to do with childbirth. Those things don't give birth to a child, right? The things that make a woman be able to carry the weight of pregnancy and carry children is the fact that she has an arch in her spine, as you can see from this picture right here. She has a flexible spine because her pelvis is tilted forward. So the spine is arched, all right, to accommodate for that pelvis being tilted forward. Without a pelvis of a woman being tilted forward, she can't carry children, because the baby would not be able to stay inside the womb. So a woman always has an arch in her back. It's a requisite for her to be able to carry children. And also, like I've said before, she has a wide pubic arch. Her hips are below her crotch, so she can have easy access to actually giving birth. Males do not have an arch in their back. Men have straight backs or flat backs. If a man's back wants to arch, he's going to arch outside like a D or a P. So I want you guys to take notice of that. So I scroll further into the document to show you that a woman will always have an arch in her back. Sorry that my pictures are loading up pretty slow. I think my internet is a bit slow today. So I'm still scrolling down into the document. All right, let these pictures keep loading. So a woman's back arches and it's much more flexible than that of a man. If a female tried to arch her back outwards, it would arch such much more that it looks like a humpback. If she's arching it inwards like this female is doing right here, you will see that it's going to arch such deeply that you're going to see that deep C arch in the back. So it doesn't matter if the female is a big woman, small, tiny, short, whatever body shape you might think, there's always going to be an arch in her back. All right, here is a big woman to my left. She has an arch in her back and her pelvis is tilted forward. A small woman to my right, arch in her back and pelvis is tilted forward. Now here is one of the many dumb questions I have to address at this point in transvestigations. It's one I have to address is, like, I see a lot of people come up and say that, you know, based on maybe if the female is losing a lot of body fat, losing maybe muscle and everything else, that it can make her to have a weird shape such that she looks like, you know, a man. So what I have to make you understand is this, that the skeletal structure is never going to change. No matter what happens, no matter the drugs the person takes, no matter the body sculpting or body contouring the person goes through, the skeletal structure will never ever change. All what they're doing, no matter the surgery that you're doing, is just changing the physical appearance in terms of the muscle and fat tissues in the body. You will never ever ever be able to change the skeletal structure. The skeletal structure remains fixed. All right. So another question I have to answer is that people will say, I've seen some ridiculous comments, especially of this Vatican control agent, saying that that I am making a transvestigation, that I'm shaming females who look like boys. All right. Or that who have this body structure of like small hips, not wide enough, so they actually tend to look like a dude. Now, the question I have to ask these people is this. So, will the hip, the location of the hip of a female, doesn't matter if she's got small hips and very, very tiny hips, the location of the hip joints is not going to change. It's still going to be below the crotch. The second thing is that because of that, the Q angle of a female will always start below the crotch, while a man's Q angle will always start high above the crotch. So that is never going to change. It doesn't matter what hips she's got. It's small, tiny, at all. The location of the hip joints will always be below the crotch. So don't get it twisted. All right. So that's one of these questions I needed to answer. The city's Vatican control agents can just get off this channel, or deluded folks, as the case may be. So I scroll further into the document to show you that a female, doesn't matter what body shape, if she has muscles, like the muscular female right here, you can see arch in her back. Muscular female right here, arch in the back. So I switch again to a video to play a clip to show you where a female's hip is at standard anywhere in the world. This is how females' clothes are measured, because without that, all the clothes that a woman buys will never fit, because the location of the hip is going to be at the wrong place. So the location of a female's hip is always below the crotch. So I play the video. So you can see right here. Now, one thing I want you guys to notice is this. Also note, because I never really talk about this, but you've probably seen it, but you never know. When a female starts spreading downwards, it's always going to be just below her elbows. So if you stand in the mirror and you take a look at yourself, if you're a woman, all right, you can bend your elbows and lift your hands up. Means tuck your elbows inside your body, right? And just raise your hands up towards your face, all right? you're going to see that you start spreading from your elbows downwards, and the widest point in that spread is going to be at the female hip joint, which is located below the crotch. So I'm going to play the video right here to continue to show you that. So as you can see, the tape's going to go around to show you where the female hip is at. And as you can see right there, that is below the crotch. That's the crotch. And the widest point as a female is spreading from her elbows downwards is always going to be below the crotch. All right. Whereas where the hip joints is at. Continue playing. So the female turns around, so you can see from the back where those hip joints are located from the back, and as she turns around, you can see that it's always going to be slightly above the bum line, but still below the crotch. We are on the subject of transvestigation of David Beckham already. Now, what I want to say is that the Vatican is a very despicable set of organization and the way they're running the world. It's Satan himself. Let's just be very, very clear. The Vatican is Satan himself running the world. As God said that he would. He said he is the prince of this world, all right, and he is the ruler of this age, the age of human beings. So what you have to know is that there is nothing sacred in the Vatican anymore. There is nothing that these people consider to be sacred, because if they can pass David Beckham as a female to you, because football, Americans call it soccer, all right. So I'm an American, so I might as well say soccer. But just to make everybody understand, because the whole world understands that the game of football is called football, is only in the United States that we call it soccer. So I'm just going to use the term that everybody around the world understands. If the Vatican can pass David Beckham off to you as a female in a male-dominated sports, all right, then you have to understand that there is nothing sacred anymore. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Because one of the things that, every time I keep making a transvestigation on somebody, and I keep coming up, finding out this person is not the sex or gender that they claim. And I always think in my mind, I think I've seen it all. Then I actually find out that I see some more, and I'm like, what the hell? It's still shocking and surprising. Now, I love watching football, all right? And when I was watching Manchester United, Manchester United was one of those teams that was a very great team way back in the day. And I used to wonder, because you have to understand that all sports are rigged. But football is one of those sports in which it's very glaring. You can glaringly see if it's a rigged game, because it takes just one person who's the referee to swing the match any type of way. So while growing up watching Manchester United play, and Manchester United was playing with I think they play in the English Premier League. Okay, Manchester United play in the English Premier League. I used to notice that the referees used to make Manchester United win so many matches, and they were not that great. So I used to ask why. What is really going on? Why is there so much favoritism again for Manchester United? It's now that I do understand that it was because of David Beckham, a female, all right, playing the male sports, that all that favoritism was there. Because immediately David Beckham left the English Premiership and left Manchester United to go to Spain, then Manchester United started not winning, or stopped being the dominant force in English football, and they started going on a decline. So that's what I just want you to notice, that if the Vatican can influence such a game that families can sit down and enjoy, because like I've said, all sports are rigged, but the sport of football is very difficult to rig, because it makes it so obvious that you're gonna be able to tell that this is a rigged game if you see what the referees are up to doing. So it is a game that that has the less amount of rigging because of that, because it's very, very obvious, and I like watching the game. So for me to find out that these people can, right, infiltrate this game, the Vatican, right, and do this, it is very, very hard and gut-wrenching. Now, about a couple of years ago, If you're looking at this page, you can actually pause the video and copy out that link. It's nothing that you should copy out, but if you just want to read, you don't have to particularly copy out this page and read anything, because I'm just going to tell you a story. It's not necessary, but if you want to, then that's fine. Now, way back in a day, let me say like 3 or 4 years ago, I don't think is it up to 4 years? I think maybe like, would I say 5, 6 years or 7, 8 years down the line. It was during a World Cup season, all right? And one of the greatest players of all time, in the name of Maradona, an Argentinian, made a comment. Now, the comment he made it in Spanish, because Argentina is a Spanish-speaking country. So he said something like to the because what I did understand when he said back then was that David Beckham does not play any football, that he's not a great player, but that he's just a beautiful looking man. Those are the words that Maradona said. But when the Vatican, who owns the media, interpreted it, they changed it into the fact that Maradona said that David Beckham was a nice looking man. So I used to wonder, why did Maradona ever say that David Beckham is a beautiful man? Because if you watch David Beckham play, you will notice that there is something off about the dude. But because if your senses are not trained, and you would never believe that somebody would actually put a female into a male sports and portray them, as a man, you would never even guess about it. So I used to notice that when I watched David Beckham, with the way the guy carried his hair, his mannerisms, the way he ran, he was always getting tired much more quickly than everybody else and was always getting substituted. He almost didn't or never ever played 90 minutes of the game of football. I always used to think, this guy looks weird. And then they made him like the poster boy for like model ads and everything else. He married one of the Spice Girls in Victoria Beckham and every other thing else, and any other thing over there. And I actually did think that I believed that I was looking at a dude. But now when I did the Transvestigation, because I wanted to do the Real Gender series, and I thought that I should put David Beckham up there. So usually before I do the Real Gender, not transgender, transsexual series, I find out a picture of the person, then I just put the person in a dump. I just have a one-time look at it, and then I move the person over. And then when I'm really, really ready to put the person on, then I take a good look to see it. And I noticed some very weird stuff. I'm like, I can't believe this. This guy is actually female. So that's just what I wanted to make you guys take notice of, that people talk, but when you don't listen, because we have a problem with listening, you can't really make out what the person is saying. So you have to now start questioning whatsoever you hear in the media and try to find out if it's truth or not. So I'm going to read what David Beckham actually said about, what Maradona actually said about David Beckham for you guys to see. So you can follow my mouse. It says, when asked what he thought of England's own footballing icon, David Beckham, the 5'5" legend said, referring to Maradona, said, Beckham is a nice man, and I'm sure he will reach 100 appearances for England, but he's just a good player, nothing more. Now, like I said, the Spanish interpretation didn't say nice man. He said Beckham is a beautiful man. And it used to make me wonder way back then what he meant. But now everything starts making sense. Then I move you over to another web page, the Los Angeles Times, which is, like I said, Vatican owned. They own everything, And here is how they portray a woman as a man to people. There is a series, there's a video on this channel that you guys need to watch, because you're gonna understand the method to this madness. And let me point you to that video. So here's the video you guys need to watch. It's called BPA, Estrogen, and the Rise of Mental Transgenderism. Because what I'm going to say next is wholly hooked on this particular video, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. It's just 14 minutes long. You guys just need to watch that, and it'll explain a lot of stuff. So back to the subject of David Beckham, as the Los Angeles Times here says, you can pause the video and copy out the link. It makes David Beckham out to be the sexiest man alive in 2015. So this is what I'm saying, how the Vatican, mocks the public. It tells you truth in plain sight, but you guys, because your brain is not working, you're not looking at stuff, you don't actually see the significance of what you're saying. So I'm going to read this particular page made by this Vatican agent here, Christine Zurilla, right? It says here, David Beckham, people's newest sexiest man alive, has a bit of imposter syndrome. Can you see that? So I want you guys to take note of how these people tell you truth in plain sight. They say that David Beckham is an imposter. All right? But people reading this will just think, oh, they're just making out fine words or just trying to make the article to be a little bit intriguing. But they're actually telling you truth because you're not studying, because you're not keeping your brain sharp. You're just assuming that what they're saying is what they're saying. You're not looking into the fine details of what it actually means. So the first thing they say, for the 2015 sexiest man alive, as they claim, they say he's an imposter syndrome. So let's keep reading. It says, I never feel that I'm an attractive, sexy person, Mr. Victoria Beckham told the magazine. Can you see that? Let me just read further, but I'll explain more. It says, which is marketing his 30th year of celebrating man candy. I mean, I like to wear nice clothes and nice suits and look and feel good, but I don't ever think of myself that way. Now, what we have to notice here, first of all, it says that the article says that David Beckham is an imposter. Then he addresses David Beckham as Mr. Victoria Beckham. Remember, Victoria Beckham is David Beckham's wife. So why do you call him Mr. Victoria Beckham? That means referring to the wife. So this is how the Vatican lies and mocks and deceives people. All right. So I just wanted you guys to take note of that. So when you start reading stuff or when you hear stuff, don't just let it go through one ear and pass out the other. Take note of the words. Take note of the meanings. Take note of the synonyms. All right. And don't just read through, because you might be reading true truth. You might be reading true truth in plain sight without knowing. So let's go on further. Now, I saw this article and I thought that it would be interesting for you guys to take a good look at it, because as you know, the Vatican is always telling you guys truth in plain sight, but because we're not actually studying, because they've brainwashed the brain such that when the truth comes, you don't even believe it. So you can pause the video and copy out this link. It's a long link, and just paste it in your browser. Now, what I want you guys to take note is that they call, they say celebrities, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the word right, but you guys know what I mean. Celebrities actually are, have lookalikes. That's more like what I wanted to say. So that means that you find out that in popular culture and media that you have people who are very, very seemingly successful looking alike. So like I've always asked this question, do you think that this is a coincidence, or do you think that these people are manufactured to be in the position that they are? So that means all the fake stories that they give you and say, you know, this person went through an audition or whatever the case might be, and then the person arrived on the scene, it's most likely all false. It means to me, in my understanding, in what I've come to know, with the facts and evidence that I have to back up, that everybody that you see that is successful in a sphere of contact, that is a mover and a shaker that's influencing your world in one way or the other, it's Vatican owned, Vatican bred, in vitro fertilized, and made to appear like a normal person. That means the person just worked hard, you know, to arrive at the position. I don't think so, because there are a lot of hard-working people around the world, and they have never made any money. All right? They have never arrived at the position that they ought to be. So why is that? Why do you think that is? It's because the Vatican manufactures the people that they can trust to be in the position that they hold, so that they can be controlled. That's just the way it works. You know, the Vatican has set up the system in such a way that, you know, we are totally slaves to it. So for example, we wake up every morning and work a 9-to-5 job, you know what I mean, and come back home, and then we still don't have enough money to pay the bills. And secondly, the rent. Most of us live in houses and not even own houses because we have a mortgage, or we have live in an apartment. And those houses we have to pay. If, for example, if you live in an apartment, you have to pay your rent every month, and you find out that every year the rent increases. Why is that? Because you have to know, if the Vatican, like they say, are teaching us real education based on economics, we should know that the value of property is supposed to be decreasing because the property is going through wear and tear. Isn't that normal? So why should the value of the rent be increasing when it ought to be decreasing? Because the value of the property is going through a depreciation every time. But why do they increase the rent and then they don't increase your paycheck? Why is that? Because they want you to keep working, to never arrive. They want you to be poor because you can control poor people and broke people more than rich folks. That's just the way it works. So when people hear about the middle class and they say that when the Vatican lies to you in the media, like Trump says, let's make America great again, and Obama says change and all that nonsense, it's never going to happen. The middle class is going to be totally eroded, annihilated away. Because if you have a rich middle class, you can't control people. All right? But you have a poor middle class in which they have to come begging to you for everything. You can tell them what they ought to do to get what they want, and they'll do it because they're hungry. So that's why your rent keeps increasing, because the Vatican wants you to be poor. And most especially, it's a form of control. Because at the end of the day, they're trying to push people into a position in which that they'll have to actually go after the government when the rent or the food prices keep skyrocketing. And that's going to happen, and that's going to cause an actual chaos and mayhem, because people are going to start rioting and all kinds of stuff. And when the Vatican comes in and tries to calm things down, what do you think they're going to tell you to do? They're going to tell you to accept a chip implanted device on your body, like the Bible says will happen. That this is the only way they can make sure that this never happens again. So the Bible is actually very true, because when it actually says that there shall be a mark, that you shall have to accept the mark of the kingdom. I'm not saying mark of the beast, because like I said before, if you really want to study the book of Revelations and know what it means, you have to understand anytime you see the word beast in the book of Revelations, it means kings or kingdoms. When you see a harlot, right, or a woman in the book of Revelation, it means church. So when he says mark of the beast, the right rendering of the word is mark of the kingdom. Mark of the kingdom. So that's what's going to happen. And it will happen because the Vatican is slowly pushing people down that line without them noticing. So you can actually, going back to this website right here, you can actually pause the video, like I said, and go look this up. And you see that a lot of these celebrities look alike, are very successful. Does that mean that they're just looking alike by coincidence, or these are actually manufactured people? So for example, here you have, what's this lady's name? Let me make sure I pull out the name right. So you have here Jamie Presley and Maggie Robbie. Or Margot Robbie. She's been in one of those movies, I think. Is it called, what's the name of that movie called? Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the movie. Margot Robbie. But let me find out the name of the movie. Yep, the movie was Suicide Squad. She was in a movie called Suicide Squad. So do you think this is a coincidence that Jamie Presley and Margot Robbie are two successful people in Hollywood and they just happen to look alike? Show you another picture. And this is Crystal B. Allen and Jennifer Garner. Is it a coincidence that these two people look alike? Do you think that they are actually just lookalikes that just happen to be successful at the world stage, or they are manufactured and bred and put in there for you to think that this is so they can control your reality? Because like I said, if you can't control my mind, you can't control me. That was always the biggest problem of slavery. Because you can enslave a man physically, but you couldn't enslave his mind. And if you couldn't enslave his mind, you can guarantee that that slave is working tirelessly. He's working tirelessly day and night to make sure that he kills his own master. So that was always the biggest problem with slavery. Control the body, but you can't control the mind. So these guys realized that. The devil, Satan himself, realized that, oh no, you have to control the mind to control the body. It's not the other way around. So these people are put on TV to control your reality. That's why I always say you can't trust anybody you see on TV. You can't. Look at that. Christy B. Allen, Jennifer Garner. There's a whole lot of pictures that you have to go through on this particular video. So on this particular website, so you can actually see Jake Gyllenhaal and Jared Leto. Why are they looking alike? And they're all successful in Hollywood at the same time. Kylie Jenner and Lord. If Lord straightened out her hair like Kylie Jenner, you wouldn't know the difference. But just by looking at their faces. Are these people actually manufactured? Miley Cyrus and Gwen Stefani? Look at that. Kate Upton and Cameron Diaz look alike. Jennifer Connelly and Lily Collins. I couldn't tell who I'm looking at right here. Right? Courtney Stodden and Pamela Anderson. Just take a look. Old school Courtney Love and Lena Dunham. Wow. Miley Cyrus and Justin Bieber. Lily Sobieski and Helen Hunt. There is a whole bunch of pictures you have to go through. So I'm not going to be able to go through all of them. But you guys can go take a look and actually see if these people are just looking alike by coincidence, or there is something more, which I know there is. For those naysayers out there, look at Stephen Colbert and Robert Saget. Huh? Holly Madison and Emily Maynard. I couldn't tell the difference if they wore the same clothes. Christy Allen and Fergie. Is that a coincidence? Do you think so? That there is a manufactured programming out there to manufacture people, like I've always said, that the Vatican is the ones behind to the manufacturing of children. They transgender some of them for their own purposes, and some of them they leave out to live like normal lives. And you guys actually think that these are real people, organically created, organically made, and that they just happen to work hard and arrive at this position? I doubt so. So what usually happens is the people that the Vatican can create, and they know they're top talent, they buy them in. They infiltrate them into the organization. That's what they do. All right? Lucy Hale and Selena Gomez. Could you tell the difference between these two? Michelle Williams and Carey Mulligan. Bryce Dallas Howard and Jessica Chastain. Just take a look. So many of them. Amanda Peter and Lake Bell. As you can see, it's over like 61 of them. Linda Gadely and Ellen Page. Christina Stewart and Teresa Palmer. Wow. Okay. So, you guys can go look that up at any point in time. Let's continue to what we were trying to do today. So a little bit of transvestigation while we continue. So what I want you guys to notice, if you had taken a look at the picture and you couldn't tell what was the difference, or you going through your mind. Now, what I want you guys to notice that right here, sorry for that flip in the picture. Right here, you can see that this is Kevin Hart. And I want you to notice the difference between the chest muscle of Kevin Hart and the chest muscle of David Beckham. All right. Now, if you can see right here, there's a clear distinction between Kevin Hart's chest muscle and his abdominal or abdominal muscles under. You can see the clear separation, right? See that? Clear separation between the chest muscle and the abdominal muscles in his body. Now, if you take a close look at David Beckham, there's no clear distinction between that chest muscle and the abdominal muscles. Do you notice that? That's the first thing I want you guys to notice. What's wrong with this picture? Now, the next thing you have to notice is the position of the navel. As you can see right here, right, judging from Kevin Hart's navel, you can see that Kevin Hart's navel is closer, all right, is closer to his elbows. Can you see that? The navel is closer to the elbows and farther downwards in the abdomen. Can you see that? The elbows are closer. This is always a sign, clear indication, because a man's navel is always going to be closer, all right, to his elbows. That's just the way God designed a man to be. Now, With David Beckham, what I want you to notice is that the navel is further inwards into the abdomen. This navel is in the wrong position for a man. It should be right around here. Okay? And the elbows of David Beckham are farther away from the navel, farther away towards where the female indentation starts for a woman. Do you guys notice those three attributes that I just showed you right now? So for a man, the elbows are closer to the navel, and the navel is farther downwards in the abdomen. For a woman, the navel is farther upwards into the abdomen, and the elbows are farther away from it. Okay? Farther away from it, not closer like a man should be. So that's what I want you to take notice in David Beckham. So we continue on with a bit of transvestigation. So here is the next picture that I wanted you guys to take notice of. So see the thing that I was trying to show you about the navel being farther into the abdomen, and see how the elbows are farther apart from it? Because David Beckham is a woman. As you can see, he has an arch in his back. The Vatican has been deceiving us for a very long time on this dude that is actually female. And one of the tricks of the trade, like I usually say, is like when they try to cover up a female and try to make it look like a man, what they do is make it have a lot of tattoos, so it has that kind of like bad boy look, you know what I mean? And then they give it some facial hair and everything. But if you notice David Beckham's movement while he's playing football in either Manchester United, the way he runs and everything, the way he passes, the way he walks, you can actually know there was something off about the dude, but you couldn't tell because he's been a woman all along. All right. So that's one of the things that I want you to notice in this particular picture. Arch in the back. He has an arch in the back. The elbows. See what I'm trying to say here. A female starts spreading from where our elbows at. All right. See that? So when if you're a woman, like if you do this in a mirror, and you hold your arms in the position that David Beckham is holding right now, you will see that you start spreading from under your elbows, and the widest point will always be at your hip joints, which is always going to be below your crotch. We have a whole lot of pictures to show you, so stick around, okay? So still, this is a continuing series of no need for pastors, and this is the part 2. Pastors are one of the people I despise the most, besides the Vatican and deluded folks. They're all one and the same to me. I started this series by saying that you actually don't need any pastors. All you need is your Bible. You don't need a church because you are the church. You need to watch the part 1 of that before you can continue this to understand what I'm saying, because I'm not gonna repeat what I already said in the part 1 on this particular video. So like I said, you don't need a pastor. It doesn't matter how nice, how sincere, how honest the person is, and he says that he's preaching the word or the gospel according to the Bible, in the King James Bible or Geneva Bible or any other Bible that they may choose, you do not need that person. You don't need to tell the person your problems, that pastor your problem. You don't need to tell him your problems, everything. You go to pastor. You don't need him. If you have a problem, all you need to do is get in your bedroom or in your closet or in your house and kneel down and pray to God Almighty in the name of Yehoshua, and he will hear you. You do not need a pastor. Don't go crying to him. Don't go telling him your problems. Don't go seeking for advice. Get your Bible, all right? And study with your family. That's how the Bible says, do not forsake the assembling of yourselves as the man of such is. Study it with your family, your friends, okay? So now what I'm going to address in this particular issue is because there's a lot of confusion going on, especially with the Hebrew Israelites also. It's also part of it, in which they tell people, and some pastors do preach it as well. They have a mix of preaching, so I'm just going to show you what the mix of preaching looks like. First of all, you've heard that some pastors says that you do not need the law anymore, all right? That you do not live by the law, that the law is done away with, all right? That's fact, and that's true. Now, some Hebrew Israelites says that you need to live by the law. All right. That the law is a requirement. That means that you need to do everything that the law says, like maintaining the days, Sabbath days, the washings, or whatever the case might be, or whatever they say. All right. So today we're going to make a clear distinction so you can understand, because in all these teachings, people have come to misunderstand that there's a difference between a law and a commandment. The laws have been done away with, and we're going to define that and show you what the laws actually mean. And then we're going to show you that the commandments, we still live by the commandment. Know all that fine commandment said that said, thou shalt not have any other God besides me. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not kill. You know, all those fine 10 commandments, we still live by it. But the 10 commandments are not a law. This is the misunderstanding that a lot of people have, because you've been sitting under indoctrination centers for so long that you can't tell the difference. So when that so-called pastor, fake pastor up there says you do not need the law anymore, people think that it's the 10 commandments. There are a whole bunch of different things. And so we're going to show you that today. And the next thing that made me actually make this particular series, No Need for Pastors Part 2, is that one of the tricks that the Vatican has used to weaken believers is the gift of forgiveness. All right. So they have made believers to be weaklings, to be, I don't even know what the right word to be is, to be stupid. That's the right word. They've made believers to be stupid because they actually think that they're doing God's work by forgiving people you should not. So here's a typical example. Let's say that you were in your house and a thief broke into your house and stole some of your goods, okay? And you have facts and evidence that this thief stole some of your goods. Would the right thing be to forgive the thief when you catch him, or you would prosecute him and make him pay back more what he took from you? The Vatican has made people to be confused. So we have a lot of stupid believers now going around thinking that they should be forgiving everybody for everything and anything they've done unto them, when you ought not to be that way. So I'm going to show you who forgiveness is meant for, all right? Who you should forgive and who you should under no circumstances forgive. So for example, here, the Vatican, it slaughtered over a gazillion people all around the world, and it's still slaughtering till today. Are you telling me when the Pope comes up like he did, when he took what's the right word for it? I'm trying to say, when he took responsibility for the slaughtering of the Rwandans in the Rwandan genocide. I have a video on that. You can actually look for the Ivan Ego. Ivan spelled with, I think, with an E. Let me actually point you to the video. So here is the video in question. Ivan Ego of World of Dance, transgender, transsexual. I'm actually going to change the name. Hotel Rwanda, Vatican movie setup. This is the video there. The name is probably going to change. There's going to be an is attached to it. But when you look for it, Ivan Ego, I talk about there in which it is of note that the Vatican takes full responsibility, all right, for the slaughter of the Rwandan genocide, in which in 30 days they killed close to 1 million people in Rwanda. They take responsibility for it. Now, that is just one of the facts that is so obvious that you can't deny, right? So somebody's gonna, a deluded believer is gonna say that they can forgive. The Pope is gonna come up and say, oh, forgive us for we did this. So for example, they take responsibility for so many things, like the priest abusing children, a priest or people dying in death camps, and responsibility that the Vatican, who instigated all the world wars and that has shaped a world today, the modern world today, they'll take some responsibility for it. And someone, a deluded believer, is going to say that we should forgive them. And they're going to quote the words of Yehoshua and say, this is what Yehoshua said: you should forgive and love your enemies. Oh my goodness. When he said love your enemies, he didn't say love them as Love them. He meant pray for them. Pray for them that they should change. That's what he meant. But we're going to take a close look at it, because you're going to understand who forgiveness is for and who you shouldn't forgive. You're going to actually understand it today. So that's why I'm saying there is no need for pastors, because they're doing the work of the Vatican to make believers to be weak so that they can be entrapped and killed. So that's what I'm going to show you. So I start off this part of no need for pastors. I'm reading from Matthew chapter number 5. You can read from the King James Version or the Geneva Bible. And I'm reading from verse 39 from Matthew chapter 5. It says, "But I say unto you that you resist no evil." Oh my goodness. Someone's going to hear that and say, this is what the indoctrination centers tell you, because someone's going to read that and say, oh, Yahushua said we should not resist any evil, right? He says that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn him the other also. So if you're a believer and someone slaps you on your right cheek, you should turn the other way also. All right, this is what most preachers or most believers actually believe that should happen. They should forgive anybody and everybody for anything they've done to them. So let's keep on reading. It says, "And if any man will sue thee at the law." Now I want you to take notice of that. We're going to come back to that later. "If anybody sues you at the law, and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also." So this is what most believers live by. They live such meek, weak, I'm using the right word. It shouldn't be meek. They live such weak and stupid lives because they think that you ought to forgive everybody for anything that is done. And the Vatican has made people to suck into this belief system and saying we should forgive everybody. Forgive them. So for example, you watch the news. Someone actually shoots a woman's son dead, or whatever the case might be, and the person sees the person who perpetrated this act, and all they can say is, "I forgive you. Let's heal." And people actually say, "Oh," because people work from their emotions. They don't work from logical sense or reasoning. They say, "Oh, that's such a kind act. That's how we ought to be." And the media is going to take that up and portray it. And people are going to say, "Oh, this is good. This is love. We should forgive." Pope John Paul II made something, because there's one time someone shot Pope John Paul or tried to shoot him. He was a Muslim or whatever. And the media televised it before Pope John Paul II died, how Pope John Paul forgave the guy who tried to shoot him. And everybody said, "Wow, he's such a good man. He's such a great man." But people don't even know the half of the story. That was a setup. The guy who tried to shoot Pope John Paul was working for Pope John Paul. He was doing what they told him to do. It was all a show. But let's not talk about that, because that's not the subject right now. We're talking about the fact how people are being deceived. The Vatican is making people to look weak by saying forgive, when they're the ones perpetrating the greatest evils. Now, if they're saying this, let's just start with simple basic fact. Why can't your landlord forgive you for your rent if they say you should forgive? Why is it that if you talked in the nicest, softest voice and say, "Oh, landlord, I don't have any money for this month's rent," why doesn't he forgive you for late payment of the rent when you do? Why aren't you forgiving your mortgages? Why should you be the only one doing the forgiving and the Vatican doing everything else against you? It's just a good question, logical question that you should ask yourself. But let's get into to show you, because I really want you guys to see the truth for what it is. Not just me by saying it, that forgiveness is not meant for everybody. You cannot forgive the devil. It will be the worst thing you do in your life. If you see the devil, you kill him. All right? So let me show you that. So first of all, I have to explain the difference between the law and the commandment for you guys to actually understand this part. Now, when Yehoshua made this statement, but I say unto you that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue thee at the law, and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. Now, what you have to understand is this. When Yehoshua made this statement, he wasn't saying it so that people should actually do it. He was saying it so that people could understand that under the law, that you can never, ever keep the law. The law wasn't meant for you to keep. The law was meant to show you Yehoshua and that you need him and that you're a sinner. I'm going to show you that with facts. So I want you guys to remember this right here. When Yehoshua said this, because you have to understand when Yehoshua came, he came unto the Hebrews first. It was after he was rejected of the Hebrews and he rose from the dead that he now went into the world. Okay? So when he was talking about the law right here, he was trying to show the Hebrews that all the laws that was ever written, and we're going to, first of all, I'm going to show you the difference between the law and the commandment, then we're going to come back and talk about that. That all the laws was meant to show them that you are a sinner and that you need Yehoshua as your savior. That the law was not meant for anybody to be able to keep. It was meant to show you that you are no good and you need God, that you're a sinner. I'm going to show you that in a second. But first of all, let me show you the difference so you can understand that there is a difference between a law and a commandment. Okay? So the first portion I'm going to read is from Galatians chapter number 3 in the King James Bible or Geneva Bible. And I'm reading from verse 21. I'm going to read to verse 29. So it says here, so we want to make a clear distinction to show you what the law was for. But should I start actually here? No, let me actually show you the difference between a law and a commandment first before I get to this, okay? So I want to show you that a law and a commandment is not the same thing in the Bible, because people have been the indoctrination centers in the Hebrew Israelite have made it out to be one. It's not the same thing, and people get confused about it. So when they hear the 10 commandments, they think that's the law. They don't even understand what it is. The 10 commandments or whatsoever are not the laws of God. You can go read the book of Leviticus and you'll understand all the laws that God said. But the 10 commandments is not one of them. So we want to make a clear distinction so you can understand that there's a difference between a law and a commandment according to God. So we're reading from Exodus chapter number 15 and we're reading from verse number 26, King James Bible or Geneva Bible, from verse number 26 of Exodus chapter number 15. And it says here, and this is before the children of Israel when they were coming out from the land of Egypt. All right. It says here, and said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes. Okay. Now, God is a wise God. All right. You have to know that he is wisdom. That's the right word to put. So God would not be making statements that he doesn't understand. He says here, and will give ear to his commandments and keep all his statutes. So let's find out the meaning of statute first before we go any further. So I'm in Google and I Googled statutes definition. All right, a statute. So you can see here statute. It says a written law passed by a legislative body. Another meaning says a rule of an organization or institution. Then in biblical uses, a law or decree made by a sovereign or by God. So we go back, right, to show you that again, to read that portion that we were actually showing you that God said, keep my commandments and my law. It's not the same thing. There are two different things. And we'll keep on showing you that so you get a deep understanding. So when the Hebrew Israelites try to confuse you and tell you that you should keep the law, You should make them understand there's a difference between the law and the commandments. Same goes with your pastor. So he says, he's going to say, make a way. There are no laws that for you to follow anymore. We follow under what the Holy Spirit or whatever the case might be. Then you have to make him understand that you still need the commandments, but you do not need the law. You're going to make a clear distinction by the end of this video. So let's go. So we pick up a transvestigation first just to show you that the way this so-called man in David Beckham is running like a woman. I want you to notice the way he lifts his legs here. You can see that this is a Q angle of a female because he has got hips, which we'll show you later on. We're still on the subject of transvestigation featuring David Beckham. So let's go. Another picture. And here is David Beckham right here. As you can see, this is a female trait. This pelvis is tilted forward. He has an arch in his back. And the chest muscles, the curves of the pecs, like I usually say, because the female chest is not designed to be massive like a man. It's designed to carry breast tissue and mammary glands so he can feed children. As you can see right there, he has the curves of the pecs. And you can distinguish between the chest muscles and the abdominal muscles because this is a female. Another picture. And look at David Beckham again. You can still see the clear arch in the back right there. So stick around for some more pictures. We're still on the subject of transvestigation of David Beckham. So we come back to the page that we showed you that it says here, as you can clearly see, there's a difference between commandments and laws. I'm going to pick up another portion just to prove that to you. Okay, let's go. So the next portion I'm picking up happens to be Exodus chapter number 16, and I'm reading from verse 28 in the King James Bible or Geneva Bible. And it says here, and the Lord said unto Moses, how long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? They are not one and the same thing. There's a difference between a commandment and a law. They are not the same. The commandment are the 10 commandments. The laws are all the laws of washings, the keeping of days, sacrifices pertaining to the temple, and all that. Over, I think, 600 laws that you can find in the book of Leviticus, Exodus, and the book of Deuteronomy, to see that there's a clear distinction between commandments and laws according to the Bible. I'm going to show you another portion. So I'm reading now from Exodus chapter number 24, King James Bible or Geneva Bible. I'm going to read from verse 12, right? And this was before when the children of Israel had come out from Egypt and God was dealing with them in the desert, all right? And he spoke unto Moses that he should come up and let's talk, that he wants to talk to Moses and give him some laws and commandments. So I read from verse 12 and he says, and the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone and a law and commandments. So there's a clear distinction between the laws and the commandment. The laws are made away with. The commandment is not. So people need to understand that. All right. So when you have the Hebrew Israelites or your fake pastors trying to make you confused about both of them, you should know there's a clear distinction between a law and a commandment. All right, so let's go further. So we come back to this particular portion in which the Vatican, under its indoctrination masters called pastors and the Hebrew Israelites, love using to make people look weak and stupid, especially believers, into believing something that is not actually true because they haven't studied. So remember, I told you to pay attention to the sentences here, because it says here, and if any man will sue thee at the law and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. So they make believers to fall into this stupid stupor, of forgiving anything and everybody when they are trying to do them harm. All right. So remember, we're reading from Matthew chapter number 5, and we're reading in the King James Bible, Matthew chapter number 5. I'm reading from verse 39 to 40. It's the key note or the key portion of this particular part of the video. Remember here it says, and if any man will sue thee at the law and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. So now I'm going to show you, all right, that the law was done away with. So this particular portion of the Bible does not apply to you. And then I'm also going to show you that the law that the children of Israel were keeping was not meant to make them holy. It was meant to show them that they were sinners and they needed Yehoshua. The law was pointing to a savior all along. So I'm going to go deep just to explain that a little bit more. Then we're going to come back and actually show you that you can be forgiving everybody and anybody. I'm the kind of person, if someone takes my coat, make sure I'm going to make sure that I'm taking 10 coats back, and I'm probably going to take your shirt too. You have to understand that. So I don't want you guys being weak out there in the world and people are just making and abusing you and you say that you're following God's will. He never ever said that. Forgiveness is not for everybody. If someone takes your coat, make sure you take 10 coats back. That's just the way you roll. That's just truth. So I'm going to show you that the law was made away with. So even then, if you were trying to keep this portion of the Bible like the Vatican makes you want to believe that you should forgive everybody, then you should know that you're doing yourself more harm than good, because the laws are all out the door. All right, so let me show you that. So now I read from Galatians chapter number 3 to show you that the law is done away with. And if you've come to this, if you've watched up to this point, then you can know there's a clear distinction between the commandments of God and the laws of God. They are not one and the same. Okay, so I'm reading from Galatians chapter number 3, and I'm reading from verse 21. It says, "Is the law then against the promises of God? God forbid. For if there had been a law given which could have given life, verily righteousness should have been by the law." So it's saying here that is the law, those laws. And what are those laws, by the way? Let me just explain that first before I keep going. So I'm reading now from Hebrews chapter number 9 in the King James Bible, the Geneva Bible. I'm reading from chapter number 9. I'm reading from verse 1 to make you understand what those laws were. And I'm going to show you also that the laws were meant to show you that you are a sinner, or more likely, the law was meant to show you that you need Yehoshua. All the laws, all the keeping of days, the law of washing, sacrifices, and the rest were meant to show you that you needed Yehoshua. I'm going to show you that, right? So first of all, let's understand what the laws were about. It says now in Hebrews chapter number 9 from the King James Bible from verse 1, I'm reading him saying, "Then verily the first covenant," requiring the first covenant meaning the laws of Moses, "and had also ordinances of divine service and a worldly sanctuary." All right. It goes on to read, there was a tabernacle made, the first wherein was the candlestick and the table and the shewbread, which is called the sanctuary. And after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant, overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. And over it the cherubims of glory shouting, the mercy seat, of which we cannot speak particularly. I keep on reading now. When these things were thus ordained, Now, when these things were all thus ordained, the priest went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of God. But into the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the errors of the people. The Holy Ghost, this signifying the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, which while as the first tabernacle was yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices. So what is it saying? All right, let me keep reading it further so I can better explain that. That could not make him that did the service perfect. So what is it saying? It says, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices, that could not make him that did the service perfect, as pertaining to the conscience. So what is it saying? It's saying all those laws that the God told the children of Israel to keep. Remember, the laws are different from the 10 Commandments. Could not make the children of Israel perfect. Why? Because the laws were not meant, right, to make you perfect. They were meant to show you that you needed Yehoshua. The laws were meant to point you to your Savior. All right? So let's keep on reading. It says, let me keep on reading from verse 9 of Hebrews chapter 9. It says, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices, that could not make him that did the service perfect, as pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks and divers washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of the Reformation. So it means here, as you can see, what the laws were about. They were all about gifts sacrifices, meats and drinks, what you should eat, what you should drink, divers washings, carnal ordinances, imposed on them until the time of the Reformation. What time of Reformation is it talking about? So let's keep on reading. It says, but Yehoshua, being come an high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of sorry, I'm pronouncing my sentence wrong. Neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctify to the purging of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, blood of Yehoshua, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament. All right. So let me go on to show you. I'll explain what the laws were. They all had to do with, like it says here, which stood in which is a figure of a time present in which were offered. The laws were all about gifts and sacrifices, meats and drinks, what you should eat, what you should wear, and all that. Divers washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of Reformation. So let me show you some other portions to show you that the law pointed you to Yehoshua. It was in no way gonna make you perfect before God. Okay? All right. Now I'm reading again now from Romans chapter number 3, King James Bible or Geneva Bible. You can read from verse number 19. It says, now we know that what things soever the law said, it said to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before God. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight, for by the law is the knowledge of sin. But now the righteousness of God without the law is manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, even the righteousness of God, which is by faith of Yehoshua unto all, and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. All right? Okay, so now what you have to notice here, as I've said, is that the law was not meant to make any man perfect. Now remember, we've made a clear distinction. There's a difference between laws and commandments. So I've showed you before what the law is, and I'll show you what the commandment is. The laws had to do with divers drinks, what not to do, what you're not to wear, the sacrifices, the keeping of days, and everything else. So as you can see here, the Bible clearly shows you that the law was meant to show you that you were a sinner. It was meant to point you to Yehoshua. It was not meant for you to be able to keep. So when the Vatican uses this particular portion, all right, let me pull that portion up again. When it uses this particular portion in Matthew to say, and if any man will sue thee at the law and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. You have to understand the laws have done away with. The laws are different from the 10 commandments. It's not one and the same. So let's go further to show you some other stuff. So we're still on the subject of transvestigation of David Beckham, and here is another picture of David Beckham. As you can see, there is no clear distinction between the breast muscles, right, and the abdominal muscles. And what do you notice about David Beckham? See where his elbows at? He's spreading his hands a little bit outward. The elbows are aligning with where the female indentation above the waist starts. Can you see that? That he is spreading downwards like a female ought to be. Take a good look. Spreading downwards. Can you see that? How wide it's going? I'm not sure what's going on in there, but it doesn't look like it's real. It's fabricated or it's something. That's not a real package there. But as you can see, David Beckham is spreading downwards, and the widest point where the Q angle of a female starts, which is always below the crotch, is right there. As you can see, spreading downwards. The navel is in the wrong place for a man. It's way high up above in the navel. And you can see that his shoulders, right? His shoulders are too short. They are tucked inside the body. They are not sticking out as a man should be, because David Beckham is a female. Another picture. And here is David Beckham. Now, before I get to this picture, I'm going to show you. I wonder if I should actually show you that. Okay, just hold on. Let me pull that up. So what I want to show you is that if a man and a woman, now we know that Michelle Obama is a dude, but for the sake and purposes of this particular transvestigation, let's just assume that it's a woman, okay? For a man and a woman, all right, when you guys are walking side by side, it is normal for you to find the narrowest point in your partner's body to hold on to. All right. So if you're a man walking with your woman, or a woman walking with a man, when your hand goes round, right, it's just instinct. Your arms are gonna go around the narrowest point, and the narrowest point in anybody's body is always the waist. For men, the waist is gonna be below the navel, right, towards the pelvis. For a female, the waist is always gonna be higher up, above her navel, just below her rib cage. So what you notice right here is that Michelle Obama is trying to find the narrowest point on Barack Obama's body, which is his waist. So he's hugging him around the waist and trying to find the narrowest point, which is Barack Obama's waist right here, which is always going to be just slightly below his navel, and that is where he's hugging Barack Obama. Now, if you notice with David Beckham here, his wife Victoria Beckham is trying to find the narrowest point on David Beckham's body. And where do you see? See where that arm goes around there? It's above David Beckham's navel. His navel is right here. And that arm goes around there because David Beckham is a female. All right? I'm going to show you some more pictures. So let's keep on going. So I keep on reading from Romans chapter number 3 to show you that the law was meant to show you that you couldn't be perfect by keeping it. It was meant to point you to Yehoshua. So now that Yehoshua has come, all those crazy laws of ordinances, keeping of washing days and whatever, like the Hebrew Israelites want you guys to keep the Sabbath day, holy days and all that, it's nonsense, all right? All you need is Yehoshua. So let me keep reading because I didn't finish reading this portion. I'm reading still from Romans chapter number 3, from verse 19 in the King James Bible, Geneva Bible. So I'm going to read from 19 on to 21. Okay, did I read this? I think I did. But let me just read it again one more time. It says, now we know that what things soever the law said, it said to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before God. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight, for by the law is the knowledge of sin. So if you're keeping the law, the laws, remember we've defined what the laws are, right? Keep those days, washings, sacrifices, Sabbath days, and whatever the case might be. It says by the law is the knowledge of sin. It was not meant to show you perfect. That means you're heaping more sin on yourselves by keeping those laws. Now, remember, we have made a clear distinction between commandments and laws. All right. So if you're keeping the laws the Hebrew Israelites want you to do, you are heaping more sin on yourself, and God's not very pleased. All right. So let's keep going. Now, this is portion I just love to put it out there just to show you how crazy these Hebrew Israelites are saying, or they don't even understand what they're saying. So remember, the Hebrew Israelites say that everybody else is a Gentile and they are Hebrews. I just have to laugh because the Vatican has done quite a good number on these folks and they actually believe it. But they totally forget this portion of the Bible, which I'm going to show you, to show you that after Yehoshua came, and even before Yehoshua came, all right, even during the time of the children of Israel, the ancient Hebrew Israelites, that God was still dealing with the world as one. Even though he said he wasn't, but he was still. And Paul just proved this. So I'm reading from Romans chapter number 2. I'm reading from verse number 13. It says here in verse number 13, King James Bible, Geneva Bible, for not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified. For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, remember we've made a clear distinction for you know what the laws are, do by nature the things contained in the law, these having not the law are a law unto themselves, which show the work of the law written in their hearts, Your conscience also bearing witness, and your thoughts, the meanwhile accusing or else excusing one another. So what is it saying? It says that even the Gentiles were keeping the law, right? Even though they had no law as the Hebrew Israelites, they were keeping the law. Isn't that funny? So now when the Hebrews now start trying to make a distinction between saying, oh, you guys are the Gentiles and we guys are the Hebrews or whatever, they're just laughing because they don't know. I'm laughing because they don't know what they're saying. God saw all of us together. He says here that for when the Gentiles, let me clearly read again, for when the Gentiles which have not the law do by nature the things of the things contained in the law, because we do know the law. All right? We know the laws. We know. Even if you're a Gentile, you know. All right? Having not the law, our law unto themselves. Do Gentiles not keep days? They do. They have ordinances, they have sacrifices just like everybody else, like the Hebrews. That's just what I wanted to show you. Okay, let's move on. So here is the portion that I have to read so you guys can understand that you do not need the laws. It's not the 10 commandments. There's a clear distinction. You live by the commandments of God, but after Yehoshua came, you do not need those laws anymore. All right? Because we're still on the subject trying to show you how the Vatican makes believers weak in people who believe in God by saying that they should forgive everybody, making you weak so you can't stand up for yourself. Someone takes your coat and you want to give him your shirt. Someone tries to kill you and you lay down for them to die. Now, you have to understand when God said, vengeance is mine. When he said vengeance is mine, he's not saying that you should not protect yourself or do unto others as they've done unto you. What he's saying is, for example, like the Vatican now. Let's say, for example, they contributed to they instigated the Rwandan genocide. They killed a lot of women and children. Now, those women and children are helpless. They can't help themselves. So that's when God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. That is what he means. When you are helpless and you can't help yourself and somebody's taken what rightfully belongs to you, then God is going to be the person who does the revenge for you. But if while you're here on earth and the person, right, is not a brother, because I'm going to explain to show you that forgiveness is meant for brothers. What do I mean by brother? Brother is somebody you know by name, and somebody that you have an agreement with, somebody that you agree on the same things, because you have a lot of believers who don't even can agree on the same thing. Forgiveness is not meant for those kind of people. If you can't agree with somebody, if you guys are not in agreement on what your beliefs are, forgiveness, that person does not have your forgiveness. You don't owe it to them to forgive them for anything. You don't forgive a stranger on the street for doing something wrong to you. Hell no, you don't do that. Somebody does something wrong to you, you better get your payment back. Don't play and mess around with these people and let the Vatican write and make you look dumb and weak. Okay? So I'm going to show you that, for example. So now that Yehoshua, where after he came, that the law was done away with. All those laws of washings and ordinances. Remember, I'm saying the laws are not the 10 commandments. It's two different things. The commandments are not done away with, but the laws are. So I want you guys to understand that. So I'm reading from Galatians chapter number 3. I'm reading from verse number 10. For it says, for as many as are the works of the law are under the curse. Now, there's a reason why I have to make you understand this also. Now, most likely you hear that the Vatican always tries to control speech, because most believers right now have a misunderstanding of what a curse is and what it isn't. Because before I had always, I think on one of these videos I've mentioned the fact that for a curse, all right, for someone to curse you, because people believe in a lot of witches and wizards and all this sorcery, and also you've heard of MK mind control, you've heard of a lot of stuff out there. You heard of subliminal messages in music that can change your mind and use you and put you under a curse, or somebody can curse you subliminally. Let me make you understand this, okay? There is no way someone can curse you without a law. There is no way. So the Vatican is making you guys believe that curses are all of the funny things that I just mentioned, including curse words such as F-U-C-K. They call it a curse word when it's actually just expletives. Or you say stuff like S-H-I-T and someone says, oh, that's not the way to talk. Believers shouldn't talk that way. You're cursing. Those are not curses in any way. The Vatican has hoodwinked people into believing that all these things that are mentioned, the MK mind control, the subliminal messages, sorcery and witchcraft and music, is a curse and people can cast spells on you and all that and control you. It's not possible because, like I said, the Vatican studies the Bible. All right? They study the Bible. That's why I tell you that the foundation of all wisdom is in your Bible. You need to study to see the logic behind it. It's not just an ordinary book. Everything that you need to know is inside the Bible. So a curse is a law. That's the right way to put it. You cannot curse someone without a law. So let me give you a typical example. The Vatican makes you guys believe that all these useless languages, all the expletive languages that you use, all right? Someone would say a mother, F-U-C-K or S-H-I-T. They tell you those are curse words and the subliminal music and sorcery and all that, MK mind control and all that, that you're actually casting a spell on you. It cannot work because there is no law behind it. So what the Vatican does in order, all right, to cast spells on people is create laws. So there are so many laws. For example, there are laws that hinder people from doing certain businesses. That is a curse. That is witchcraft, actual witchcraft in operation. Those laws that tell people, for example, that make homosexuality, right, to be the norm, and the traditional marriage between a man and a woman, all right, not to be the norm. That is a curse right there. A law has been passed. So you can see right here from the Bible that the Bible is actually showing you logical, sound information. It says, for as many as are the works of the law are under a curse. You can only be caused or cursed when you adhere to a law that's working against you, against your own best interest. That is a curse. That is real witchcraft, which the Vatican practices, but lies to you that such expletive words as F-U-C-K, S-H-I-T, all right, subliminal messages, music, or whatever the case might be, MK mind control is casting spells on you and cursing you when it's not the case. So I want you to take note of this portion of the Bible. Galatians chapter number 3, right? Verse number 10. For as many as of the works of the law are under the curse, for it is written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. Isn't that what the Vatican does? You break a law and they punish you for it. You've been put under a curse. But for the purposes of this particular presentation, what I'm presenting to you is the fact that those laws of ordinances, washings, days, the keeping of days, blood sacrifices, were putting the children of Israel under a curse. Why? It was not meant for them to keep. It was meant to show them that they needed Yehoshua. It was meant to point them to the Savior in Yehoshua. Does it make sense? So let's keep reading so you can understand. I'll continue on to verse number 11. It says, but that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God. It is evident, for the just shall live by faith. What does it mean to live by faith? Live in the sacrifice that Yehoshua made for you. Live in that sacrifice, all right? Live in that belief. Right, I continue saying, and I continue reading, it says, and the law is not of faith, but the man that doeth them shall live in them. Christ had redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. It is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree, that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Yehoshua. I want the Hebrew Israelites who love their Hebrew ideology to see that. that there is no distinction anymore. So let me keep on reading. It says that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. All right? That's what I want you guys to notice. What else should I read in here? Let me see if I can find it. All right. So this is a part that I want the crazy Hebrew Israelites to actually see, that the Bible actually makes no distinction today. So if you say you're a Hebrew Israelite and that you're the only one in, all right, and the rest of us are crazy punks like us, don't mean anything, the fake Hebrew Israelites, this is what I want you guys to notice. If you never notice, go check Galatians chapter number 3 and read number 28. All right. Okay, I'm going to read from verse 27. Okay, let me read from verse 26 just to make you understand what it's saying. Then I'm going to read some more stuff here. All right. It says, for as many as you have been baptized into Yehoshua have put on Yehoshua. There is neither Hebrew nor Gentile. There's neither bond nor free. There is neither. Now I'm not going to read that part because the people are going to make misunderstanding. But I'm still going to read it just to explain. There is neither male nor female. Male nor female here means that there's no distinction. That a man is not above a woman. That's just what it means. It doesn't mean there is no sexes, or there's no sex between a male and a female. So the people who love being transgender won't read this and say, oh, this is what it means. Okay? Let me come read it. Say, for you are all one in Yehoshua. And if you be Yehoshua's, then are ye Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. So, for the fake Hebrew Israelites right there, you have to notice that there is no distinction between you, fake Hebrew Israelite, and me, as you might call me, a Gentile. God doesn't see that distinction anymore. He sees all of us as one, as long as we believe in Yehoshua. Now, there's something else I wanted to point out in this particular portion that these guys you have to take notice of to make you understand that the law was meant to show you, all right, that you need Yehoshua. The law was not meant for you to keep. When I'm talking about the law here, we have made a clear distinction between commandments and laws. They are not one and the same thing. Okay, so where I read from verse number 19 in Galatians chapter number 3, I'm reading from verse 19. It says, wherefore then severed the law? So it's asking the question, what was the reason for the law? Why did God give the laws to the children of Israel? Those laws of washings, ordinances, sacrifices, sprinkling of blood, keeping of days, and all that. I say, what was the reason for this law? So that's the question. It says, it was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. So he was saying that it was added, all right, because of transgressions, all right, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. What does it mean? It means until Yehoshua, to whom the promises was made, would come. That was the reason why those laws were given, to keep people in remembrance, right, that there are sinners needing a savior in Yehoshua. The whole law was pointing to one person, Yehoshua. So now let me continue reading. I'm reading again from verse 24. I've just skipped a few portions because here's the pertinent part that I want you guys to know. It says, wherefore the law was a schoolmaster to bring us unto Yehoshua, that we might be justified by faith. But after faith is come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster, for you are all the children of God by faith in Yehoshua. So that is what it's saying, that after Yehoshua has come, you no longer need those laws. Remember, the laws are not the 10 commandments. They are both different things. You do not need the laws, but you need the commandments. Okay? It says, wherefore the law was a schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, that we might be justified by faith. But after the faith is come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster. For you are all the children of God by faith in Christ Yehoshua. Okay, let's move on. So to continue reading, to show you that you do not need the laws anymore. All right? You need the commandments. They're both different things, all right? It says in Colossians here, chapter number 2, I'm reading from the King James Bible. I'm reading from verse number 16, all right? It says, let no man Let no man therefore judge you in meat. Remember, we had defined what those laws were about. They were about meat, what to eat, what to drink, what to wear, the sacrifices, respect of days, and all of that. That was what the laws were about, to point them to Yehoshua, to make them understand that they are sinners. It was added because of transgressions. Remember that. People were transgressing to show them that they needed Yehoshua. So let's keep on reading. It says, let no man therefore judge you in meat or drink, or in respect of any holy day, of the new moon, of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Yehoshua. Now, this is the part that, a lot of lay Catholics do without actually looking at the Bible. And let me keep on reading. He says, let no man beguile you. That means let no man deceive you. Beguile there means deceive. Beguile you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshipping of angels, intruding into those things which he had not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind. So you can see right there that the Bible clearly says that the laws done away with. Those laws of, as you can see here, meat, drink, respect of days, new moon, Sabbath days, the sacrifices, and all that. And even God, to show you that he doesn't need those laws, the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. Without a temple, you couldn't practice all this. So tell me right now, if you're a Hebrew Israelite, why you should. So let's get back. I've shown you that there's a difference, clear difference now between laws and commandments, and the laws have been done away with. So when the Vatican tries to make people weak by telling them that you need to forgive everyone. Sorry, I paused that real quick. When the Vatican tries to make you weak, especially believers, by saying that you should forgive everybody when you ought not to, the people you ought to forgive should be people who you're in agreement with. All right? People you are in agreement with, people who believe the same things as you do. Those are the people you need to forgive. Not people who you don't know by name, you hardly know, strangers. You should not forgive them in any way, shape, or form. You need to ask for a repayment for whatever they've done to you. So let's keep on reading so you can see that. So we're back on the subject of Transvestigation of David Beckham, and as you can see right here, David Beckham has an arch in his back. His elbows are aligned where the female indentation is, which is his elbows, and his navel is way too high up in the abdomen for it to be a man. And as you can see, he doesn't have any clear distinction. As you can see right there, very, very clearly, there is no distinction between the breast muscles right there and the abdominal muscles, because David Beckham was born female, transgender to male, meant to deceive us, deceive the whole world, and deceive a lot of women into thinking that it's actually a man when it's not, making them to fire the wrong hormones in their body, females, making them to be attracted to other females, because that what usually happens. And as I've said before, I've shown you a video that you need to watch, which I explain that clearly. So let's keep on going with David Beckham. I have a whole lot of pictures. And here is David Beckham. As you can see right there, his pelvis is tilted forward, arch in the back. Tattoos meant to cover up and try to lie to you that it's male when it's not. And as you can see, there is no clear distinction between the breast muscles and the chest muscles, because this dude is a female, been lying to the world for a very long time, helped by the people who produced it, which is the Vatican. Let's keep going forward. And here's David Beckham. And what do you notice about this? Can you notice the hips that he's spreading? Just take a good look. See where the female indentation for this supposed man starts? See that? He's spreading all the way downwards, and the widest point right there is well below the crotch. Clear indication that this dude is a woman. Now, I can use the subjective facts now to show you that the arms are way too short. The arms are way too short for a man. Because if I draw a line from his crotch to this arms, it ends inside the wrists. inside the wrist of his arms, showing you that this is a woman all along. And look at the chest muscles. There is no clear distinction between the chest muscles and the breast muscles, because this is the chest of a female. And see where he's spreading, as he's spreading downwards, wider, 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 wider down. And 10 minutes right there in these Q angles, that's right there, because that's the Q angle of a female. Some more pictures. And here's David Beckham again. As you can still see, the pelvis is tilted forward because it's supposed to be carrying children. And look at that. The elbows are aligning, right? The elbows are above the female navel. Clear indication that this thing is a woman. Let's keep going. And here again, I showed you the picture before. David Beckham's wife, Victoria Beckham, is trying to find the narrowest point in David Beckham's body. And what does she find? She finds it above his navel. His navel is right here, and that's where David Beckham's waist is at, because David Beckham is female. In case you forgot, let me pull up the picture that I showed you before of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama doing the same thing. So as you can see here, Michelle Obama, a supposed female when she's not, is actually a dude, is trying to find Barack Obama's narrowest point in the body, which is always the waist. And where does she find it? Look at where she is holding on to. That waist right there is the male waist, which is always going to be below Barack Obama's navel, which is right here. And as you can see right here, in comparison with David Beckham, his wife is trying to find the narrowest point in his body. And where does she find it to be? She finds it above David Beckham's navel. Clear indication that you're looking at a female and not a man, as they have made us to believe. Let's keep going. David Beckham, get another picture. As you can see that he's spreading downwards. Now someone's going to say it's because of the way he stands. No, it's not the way he stands. This is actually one of the deceptive tricks, right? They want you to make you believe that it's the way he's standing that's making him spread, when he's actually trying to hide those hips, all right? So that's what they're doing. But as you can see, the navel is way too high up. There's a tilt in that pelvis, as you can see right there. And the elbows, even though he's spreading them out, is aligning with the female indentation above the waist, because David Beckham is a female. He has no clear separation between his chest muscles and his abdominal muscles. They are all non-asymmetric at all, because David Beckham is a woman. Another picture. And here's David Beckham again. As you can see, arch in the back. Can you see that? Arch in the back. David Beckham is female, and so is his wife. As you can see where he's putting his arms around that. The woman has an arch in her back also. Arch in the back of David Beckham. This is a woman. Some more pictures for you. And David Beckham again. Take a good look. You can still see the arch in the back. You can see where the navel is at, way too high in the abdomen. No clear separation between the breast and the chest muscles, because this is the chest of a woman. David Beckham is a woman. Some more pictures again. And look at David Beckham again. Can you look at this thing and actually think that this is actually a man? Look at the arch in the back. Look at the feminine posture. Look at the way it looks. All right? Can you see that? No clear separation between the breast and the chest muscles. Sorry, the chest and the abdominal muscles. Because this is a woman. The pelvis is tilted forward. Some more pictures. I have a lot of pictures, so let's keep going. So here it is where I'm going to show you, so that as a believer, you shouldn't be sucked into the Vatican's ideology of trying to forgive everybody and anybody and putting yourself at a detriment, making yourself an easy target to be killed and ridiculed and used when you ought not to be that way. From today, I want you to grow some cojones and have some strength inside you, all right? Don't let these people fool around with you. Show them who they are. If someone takes your coat, like I said, take 10 coats back and even his shirt. That's what you ought to do as a believer. As long as this guy is not somebody you have the same beliefs with, don't agree on the same things, you don't owe that person any form or sort of forgiveness. And I've showed you before, right? I've also shown you in this video that the certain curse, the words that we say curse words, and have nothing to do with curses. Actual curses are laws that says things like, it shall not be well with you. That means you cannot do certain things. Those are the curses. Those are actual sorcery and spells cast on you, laws. All right. So let me keep reading just to show you that who you should forgive and who you should not. So these are in the words of Yehoshua himself. So nobody should judge me and say Tricks of the Estrate said this. This is from your Bible. If you have a problem, take it up with Yehoshua. I'm reading from Matthew chapter number 18. I'm reading from verse 15. And it says, moreover, if thy brother, I want you to take a good look at that. The operative word there is brother. Now, the question I need to ask for those people who like forgiving everybody and saying that they're actually adhering to what God says. Is everybody your brother? Is the man on the street your brother? No, it's not. Is your boss your brother? No, he's not. Is your landlord your brother? No, he's not. The Bible clearly states brother. And who's a brother? We're going to make you understand just from this portion on what Yehoshua was trying to say. So he says, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican. So what does it say? What is Yehoshua saying? You see, if you have a problem with your brother, brother here means you have to understand what Yehoshua is saying here, brother, because the whole Hebrew Israelites, right, were meant to be brothers. So that means what defined them as a brother? They were under the tutelage of the commandments of God Almighty and his laws. So that's what defined the person as a brother. So clearly showing you that if you're meant to forgive somebody, the person has to be of the same belief system and ideology. There should be no difference. That is who your brother is. And even though you call the person a brother also, even though he adheres to the same ideology and belief system, you have to know him by name. You have to know him by name. He's somebody you have an association with. Someone who's defined by association with you, you know by name, and has the same belief systems and ideology as you. That is your brother. Not somebody you see on TV. Not your landlord. Not your co-worker. All right? So let me keep on reading to explain that. He says, so if you have a problem with this fella, that means this guy has done you wrong in some way or the other, then tell him his fault between you and him alone. So first of all, this is how forgiveness starts. You tell him what he has done. All right? If he shall hear you, that means you guys have settled the fact that he admits his fault, then, all right, you have gained your brother back. But if he will not hear you, then take with thee 1 or 2 more. That means if your brother refuses to acknowledge what he has done wrongly to you, take 2 or 3 more witnesses and let them hear this story and let them judge. 2 or 3 witnesses, it means 2 or 3 more brothers of your kind, of the same belief system that you associate and you know, and let them hear what this fellow's done. Now, it keeps on going. It says, and if he doesn't want to hear and understand what you say and doesn't want to acknowledge his fault, then take him to the church. All right? Which church is he talking about? Because way back in the day, you have to know that the temple was a church. That means there was an outer place that you could gather and settle your differences. So you go down there and you talk. Now, if you guys have done this still, and this dude still does not acknowledge his fault, he says, but if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican. So if this brother, if after this does not still acknowledge his fault and what he has done wrongly, then treat him as a heathen and a publican. That means he's of no benefit to you. Do whatsoever you want to do with this fellow. That's how forgiveness is done. So let me show you another portion of the Bible to actually show you that forgiveness is only for your brother. So I'm reading now from Matthew chapter number 18, and I'm reading from verse 21. It says, Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I will forgive him till 7 times? So the question here you have to understand that Peter's asking is, he's specifically saying, how, when? He's specifically letting you know, how often shall my brother? He did not say the man on the street that you do not know by name, who does you harm, and you forgive him. The guy threatens to take your coat or tries to kill you, and you stand and allow yourself to get killed. That's not what he's saying. He's saying brother. The operative word right there is brother. Okay? He didn't say that someone that you do not know on TV does you harm. He didn't say the Vatican. He didn't say anybody. He said specifically brother. Those are the only people you ought to forgive, so that you don't get messed up in this false Christianity that the Vatican is heaped on you, that you should forgive everybody and anybody. No, 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 no. If someone takes your coat, make sure you take your 10 coats back from him, and a shirt also. I'm that kind of person. If you come on me with one gun, you best be guaranteed that I'm coming at you with 10, 20, 30, 40, or even 50 guns. I play no games. All right? So don't be weak. Forgiveness is for your brother only. A brother in the sense that someone you know by name and you associate, you have a relationship with. Someone who believes the same things as you do. Those are the people you ought to forgive. So let me finish up this, then we can just wrap this up. It says, Then came Peter to him and said, I'll read again from Matthew chapter number 18, from verse 21, King James Bible or Geneva Bible. It says, Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Yehoshua said unto him, I say now not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. And you have to understand that you only forgive a brother who acknowledges his fault. Not for someone like I already showed you, who doesn't acknowledge his fault at all. I already read that part or portion to you. Who doesn't acknowledge his fault and doesn't come to the acceptance that he has done you wrong. You do not forgive those kind of people. You forgive the people who have acknowledged their fault and tell you, I am sorry for what you have done. People you have an association and relationship with. People you have the same belief systems with. Not people you do not know by name, who do you harm at will, and you let them go because according to what the Vatican and your so-called crazy indoctrination centers have made you believe that you forgive everybody. You do not forgive everybody. You forgive those who know, as the Bible has showed you. I didn't say it. I showed you. All right? So let's continue on and just wrap this transvestigation up real quick. Now, here's a picture of David Beckham with his so-called wife. And I have come to think, I think that one or maybe 2 or more of these kids are actually transgendered as well. So that means that this whole shenanigan of David Beckham and Posh Spice is actually a reality TV show that has been put on us by the Vatican, making us trying to believe that these people are real families. They are created. Okay? I actually think that 1 or 2 of these children out here are transgendered. I don't know which one it is. I don't want to get into it. But I'm going to wait until when they get older. Then probably I'm still going to make a transvestigation by then. So that's what's going on. Let me keep on showing you some other pictures. And here's David Beckham again with Kevin Hart. Like I said, you do not trust any of these fellows you see on TV, because if Kevin Hart knows for a fact that David Beckham, the people around him, and the TV presenters, the people, his coaches, his managers, the people around him know that David Beckham is a woman. But they've never mentioned that to you. So what makes you think that anything else they say is the truth, or they have you in your own best interest? These are all lying bunch of deceivers like Kevin Hart. If I were you, I would not watch another comedy show by Kevin Hart or sponsor him in any shape or form, because he's a liar. He's been lying to you and deceiving you all the way along. That David Beckham is a man when he's actually a woman. All right. Another picture, and here's David Beckham again. As you can see, he's spreading downwards, and like I said, the widest point on that spread downwards is below the crotch. As you can see, he has great hips. All right there, see that? where it tapers in and you start having the female Q angle, that's right there, because David Beckham is a woman. You can see even the abdominal muscles tell you is the abdominal muscles of a woman, because the abdominal muscles of a woman curve inwards, upwards, and downwards so the belly can spread when a woman is pregnant. It's not going to be as hard and as compact as a man's muscles or abdominal area is going to be, because it's meant to spread so that the child can have free room inside the womb. And as you can see, David Beckham still does not have a clear distinction between his breast or chest muscles with his abdominal muscles. They are all joined together, because this thing has been deceiving a lot of women, a lot of people for years, making them to start having homosexual tendencies by actually thinking that you're looking at a male when you're actually looking at a woman. It's so sad. And it's doing the same thing also for the males, because a man's going to look at this and say, oh, it's a pretty looking man. And probably if you have homosexual tendencies, you start thinking about this shit. Sorry, did I say that? I'm sorry if I used that word. I apologize. But this thing is actually a female. That's what I want you to notice. Take a good look. Look at the female indentation above the navel. Look at where the elbow's at. He's trying to spread the elbows out so that he looks like a little wider. I mean, his arms out. If you stuck them right in, you would see that they would follow the contours of the body and they would align with the elbows, because you're looking at a female. Another picture. Look at David Beckham again. Arch in the back, arch in the back, arch in the back. Clear, there's no clear distinction between the chest and the abdominal muscles. You can see that. Curves of the pecs, arch in the back, because this is a woman. The pelvis is tilted forward. David Beckham is a woman. Another picture. And look at David Beckham, clear as day. Clear as day. You can see the tilt in the pelvis. The tilt of a female pelvis. See that? The tilt of that female pelvis makes a woman to look like she's walking around with her butt sticking out. So you see a woman walking and you always kind of wonder, why is it like a female's butt is sticking out? It's because the pelvis is tilted forward so that a child can stay inside the womb. And that is what David Beckham clearly has. Arch in the back, tilted pelvis forward, faking a tattoo, trying to make you think that he's a dude when he's actually a woman. He's been a woman all along, and the Vatican has put it in there, given it all the endorsements, made it appear on your TV screens, sucked you into a lie. All for what? So that they can control your reality. David Beckham is a female. Clear as night and day. Tilted pelvis. Another picture. David Beckham right there. You can still see the arch in the back. Arch in the back. Because David Beckham is female. Another picture. You can see that he's still spreading downwards, and the widest point, like you can see right there, is what? Below the crotch. And that's where his Q angle starts, because it's the Q angle of a female. Don't let the hair and the facial hair fool you. You're looking at a woman all along. It's been a woman all along. Look at that. No clear distinction between the chest muscles, the curves of the pecs, giving you this bad boy look when it's actually female. It shows you the level and length of depravity that the Vatican go through to control you, because they're all working for the devil themselves, led by demons. Oh, goodness gracious. Look at that. Curves of the pecs. No distinction. You can't even know where the chest muscles are. Is it right here? Is it starting right there, or is it here? Because this is the chest muscle of a female. There's no distinction between the chest muscles and the abdominal muscles, because this is a woman. And look at that stance, and look at the way it carries his arms. Look at that. Women carry their arms that way, because David Beckham is a woman. Another picture. David Beckham again, as you can see right there. Where is the chests? Where is it? And the L, you can see that how short the shoulders are. They're tucked inside the body. Can you see that? Tucked inside the body. That's why the lat muscles are that way, because they're tucked inside the body. The shoulder length or the shoulder width is not wide enough to be that of a man. Another picture. David Beckham again. And look at what? He still tries to fake that stance to hide the hips, all right? But he's spreading downwards. Look where the navel is at. No clear distinction between the chest muscles, because he is a woman. Look at that again. No clear distinction. You can see the chest and the abdominal muscles are all merged together. Why? because this is a woman whose breast tissue has been removed through surgery or any other hormone therapy treatment to make it look like a man, when it's indeed a woman. David Beckham is a woman. And look at where the elbow's at, aligning with where the female indentation above the navel is, because David Beckham is a woman. Another picture, arch in the back, as you can see, arch in the back, arch in the back, tilted pelvis, tilted pelvis, tilted pelvis, because David Beckham is female. And look at that. That's the walk of a woman from behind, as you can see right there. That's a woman walking from behind with Victoria's Spice. Two females. And this is what the world makes you believe. The Vatican makes you believe that these are actually a couple, male and female, faking along on that red carpet or Grammy Awards or wherever they go with this fake facial hair. David Beckham is a female. Another picture. And who's this? Oh, goodness gracious. It is the famous Michelle Obama. Another fake dude or fake female, as I may say, with David Beckham. If Michelle Obama couldn't tell you that this dude right here is female and that she is a man, why would you ever look up or believe whatever these people say to you? Why would you look up to your government, which is owned and controlled by the Vatican, that they will be there for you and do what you ought or think that they should do for you? They will never do that, because they are led by Satan himself. These are not the people you should be looking forward to. Like I said, the 101 of spotting a shield. Once you see that person on TV, face on TV, that person is a shield. All right. I already showed you that picture. Look at David Beckham, clear as night and day, arch in the back. Is this how a man is designed? No. Short arms, wearing a marriage ring, faking to you that it's a dude, and a fake package as well. This is a female, 100%. Arch in the back, because it's meant to give birth. It's not meant to wear my sleeveless tops or my tank tops and wear my briefs, because it's a woman. Another picture. Look at that. Arch in the back, clear as night as day. A picky butt like a female should have, because this is a woman and not a man. All right. With that, I come to the end of today's presentation. I'm sorry it was long, but I have to tell you the truth and make you understand your world, and make you not be a dumb believer and you believe in Yahushua. You shouldn't be forgiving anybody and anybody because you don't know any of them. If someone takes your coat, like I say, take 10 coats back. Have no mercy for anybody who's not your brother. I have to find the meaning of brother to let you know that the brother is someone you have a relationship with, an association with, in which you guys believe the same things. All right? That is your brother. If it's not, and if the brother doesn't want to act like a brother, then don't treat him like one. Treat him like anybody else you would meet out there. Forgiveness is not for everybody. Don't be stupid. Know the meaning, know the differences between actual curses and the fake thing that the Vatican wants you to believe that are actual curses by using expletive language. Those are not cursing. Don't let them control the way you speak. Don't let them control the way you think. Don't let them control the way you act. Know the truth and stick to the truth, okay? That's what I ought to let you guys know. If you've learned something, that's great. Subscribe and stay tuned. And for those Vatican troll agents, don't leave me stupid comments. It was a long video. I have a short fuse for nonsense, all right? I have no time, okay? If you learned something, that's great. Subscribe and stay tuned, and I'll leave you with these words. Let it be something you remember every day. Every time you look at anything, anytime you hear something, that you look with your eyes, but you see with your brain. Thanks, and bye-bye.